Okay, we are at the last chapter. Congratulations to us. So this chapter is chapter number 14, and it's our good old friend Darwin, right? So why Darwin? It's a computational course, right? And I had this revelation when a friend of mine who should be accounted also for other revelations to me, but this one was a big one. He told me that Darwin is one of the first computer scientists. And we should look at, not should, but we could look at biology as computer science, and we will learn a lot from that. And indeed, we have seen the examples before, right? For example, von Neumann was trying to figure out this self-replicating machine, and it turned out to be a blueprint for DNA replication. We didn't go into that detail, but you have that video that those who were interested could watch. So what Darwin tells us is this giant algorithm that runs the whole species, how new species form. It's also a way of solving problems. Okay, let me show you. Let's say you are designing a nuclear reactor. Okay, you have this core, and inside the core you have these cells, right? These are the cells. What you can put inside could be fuel, could be moderator, could be some other material. Like, you have to design the reactor in such a way that you get maximum efficiency, right? But also you don't want to have too much temperature confined in one place. Like, you don't want this kind of temperature distribution, more like as flat as possible, okay? So that you avoid loss of coolant accident or like some accidents. So let's say you have 100 cells, and you can put inside this 100 cells different things. You can imagine that it quickly becomes exponentially hard problem to solve, right? So what do? Well, you just ask, let's say, not even ask, you just start with, you can even start randomly. You start with a random initial design, 10 designs, okay, 10 designs. And you basically pick the top 5 based on your fitness algorithm, the top 5 most fit designs, okay? Once you have those 5 designs, top 5, those become parents, okay? And then you use Darwin's genetic algorithm, okay? You start mating, like the first parent with the second one, first parent with the third one, first parent with the fourth. Like, all these matings create children, right? And you are expecting that you are hoping that they are going to have good sides of both parents, okay? That will not always be the case. Sometimes they will get bad sides from both parents. But in the end, you will get another 10 designs, right? So since you keep getting the top 5, we hope that you will keep improving, right? But there is a problem. Since you keep mating these with each other, there will be you will quickly explore all the genetic pool that you had at the beginning. Those 10 initial designs will correspond to some sort of a genetic pool, and you will quickly explore it. Yes, you will find a very good design, but you will see some obvious parts that are wrong, and you will not be able to fix them because now they come up with all of the designs because they are relatives. Does it make sense? So that's why Darwin's theory also had mutations in it. So mutations were good. There were the exploration parts. Mutations are not good when it happens to you individually, of course, but sometimes they are good. Sometimes, yeah. So basically, that's the idea in a nutshell. You can solve any problem you want with this approach. For example, if you remember traveling salesman problem, let me just draft a solution for traveling salesman problem. Okay, let's remind ourselves. You're to go over, let's say, 100 cities and come back, and you're looking for the shortest path, right? Let's say there are 10 cities, and your route is 1, 7, 2, 3, 4, oh, okay, 9, 5. It's very hard to get, oh, 2 is again. So what am I missing? 8, right? 9 cities. So let me start here by 2, 1, 5, 6, 9, 4, 3, 8, 7. Okay. So let's say these are 2 good designs. After this point, it's up to you. You get the idea. You can figure out an algorithm for mating yourself. Like, this is a good mating algorithm. I think the one that I'm using is the following one. So at each step, for example, we are going to mate this parent with this parent. You choose randomly which cities you want to change. So these cities are already inherited. Okay, they will appear the same in the final child. So let's just write them down. Let me just copy. So these 4 cities are already inherited. The rest will be inherited from the other parent, right? Let's find where are those 7s, 3s, 9s, and 8s. They are here, right? Did you follow so far? So I'm going to, this is also 6. Also 6. I'm going to just place them in that order. 6, 9, 3, 8, 7. Does it look like its father? Yes. Does it look like its mother? Yes. So it's a combination of 2 good ideas. I hope it makes sense. You have a question? Yes? No? Any questions at this point?
So we're just saying that we have 2 good ideas, so a combination of the 2 will be a good idea. Are we saying that?
No, it might also be a bad idea, but we will raise them again and pick the good ones.
Trial and error is happening, sort of.
It's more what you said than I mean, 2 good ideas. So we basically chop down 2 good fitnesses into their parts, right? Then we mix their parts, and we hope that good parts coming from good ideas are going to lead to good fitness again, which usually does. but we need mutation also so that we don't get, if we don't have mutation, after some point, all the children are the same. Okay? They have the same strengths, but also they have the same flaws. Okay, so, okay, I need to increase the font, right? I hope this is enough. Can you see the code? Yes. So all this is happening in this code. Okay. Just trust me. And if you are interested, you can check out the code. I think for the mutation, I'm doing what I did with the simulated annealing thing. Do you remember in simulated annealing there were these 4 cities and we would flip the other side? I think mutations are those things, okay? So we pick randomly and we just flip it like this. Yeah. And if you run it, just like in the simulated annealing case, I'm plotting the top one, the best one, and it solves. At least you don't get crossings, right? Are we happy with this idea? Yes? Very good. So, oh, it got better, but anyways. So you can think of the evolution idea as Taylor expansion series. Okay, the first order is everyone for themselves. You have to be fittest. You have to get fittest mate, etc. Fight for it, etc. Right? That's the first order. The second order is kinship. I hope I'm writing it correctly. Or the idea of altruism. Okay? It doesn't fit to the first order because in the first order you wouldn't expect. That was the only code, and I will just talk after this point. Okay? But there is always an algorithm underneath. Okay? Now, why would you get altruism when you know that individuals that are fittest are going to be selected, etc.? Here is why. So I'm sure you have seen those things when the bird, like there are eggs, there is a fox coming, and the bird like does like acts like it was hurt, so that the fox turns to the bird, mother bird, and then it just flies away. Okay, it's a very complicated thing to have, right, in the bird. Where does it come from? Well, one of them just accidentally. Let me explain this altruism, where it comes from. So imagine you have. Then we come to that bird. Very important drawing of several birds. Do you see how nice it is? And then there is the danger coming in. Okay? Then one of the birds starts screaming and alerts the others at the expense of exposing its position and putting itself in danger. So why do we have this? Because all these birds are its cousins. Let's say they share 10% of the genetic material. Okay, let's say there are 100 birds here. Their closeness is 10%. So basically by this act, it's actually repeating, it's actually making 10 babies on the average by this act, because instead of making babies, I mean like transferring its genes. It could just transfer its genes, then each baby is 50%, let's say, of its genes. But by saving hundreds that are 10%, that have 10% kinship, right? It's more valuable. So that's why you get, whichever bird starts doing this, it gets fit as a group. So far, so good? Do you have any questions at this point?
I had something about this.
Yes.
It's the genes that are selfish, not the
Yeah.
people, let's say, or birds.
Mhm.
And if a gene does something that makes it more likely to propagate, even if it's expensive at the organism itself,
Yeah.
it will do it.
Exactly. So it's basically a code, because I mean you have probably seen many brutal things happening, like what was it? The octopus starving to death while caring for its babies. Have you seen those kinds of stuff? Yeah. Lots of this kind of stuff are happening, but all these have kinship underneath. They are relatives, all right? That's the second order expansion of Taylor series. Then there is the third order expansion, where we see in nature like crocodile and a little bird cleaning its teeth, and it doesn't just shut its mouth because
Mutualism, I think.
mutualism, yes. Okay, so we go into this paper. Where is it? Cooperation science. The evolution of cooperation. Are you still interested?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Theory of evolution. Darwin's theory is valid. Blah blah blah. To account for the manifest existence of cooperation and related group behavior, such as altruism and restraint in competition, evolutionary theory has recently acquired two kinds of extension that I mentioned. These extensions are broadly genetical kinship theory, this one, and reciprocation theory. Or what did you call it? Mutualism?
Yeah.
Yes. Or symbiosis, or whatever you call it. Symbiosis is not a good word?
I am not sure.
Okay. Okay, so let's just... Conspicuous examples of cooperation, although almost never of ultimate self-sacrifice, also occur where relatedness is low or absent. Mutualistic symbiosis, they are using them together. Offer striking examples such as this. The fungus and algae is the plural of algae? Or whatever, yes, very good approach to the course, yes. That compose something. The ants and ant acacias, where the trees house and feed the ants, which in turn protect the trees, and the fig wasps and fig tree, where wasps, which are obligate parasites of fig flowers. That's why you have, by the way, this small entrance under the figs, so that they can put their babies there. And they serve as the tree's sole means of pollination and seed set. Okay. In biology, our model is novel in its probabilistic treatment of the possibility that two individuals may interact again. This allows us to shed new light on certain specific biological processes. So here the thing is that at any particular time, the crocodile can just close its mouth and it just gets a nice aperitif, right? But then it loses its toothbrush. What can the bird do to the crocodile? It's harder to imagine. But always, usually the course of cooperation in such symbiosis is smooth, but sometimes the partner shows signs of antagonism, either spontaneous or elicited by particular treatments. Blah, blah, blah. Where was it? Let me just find that. at some point it says that they can always hurt the other one. They always have that possibility, which makes it a prisoner's dilemma. I hope you have heard of it. So let me just, for those who want to hear it again, I show you this image. So there are two prisoners, they have been caught, and you want to get a confession out of them, and remaining silent for them is cooperation, and confession is defecting. Okay? Antagonization, let's say. So, look, there is a dilemma here, because from prisoners A's perspective, let me just, both them defect, then they get 5 years each, okay? If this A confesses, the other one remains silent, A goes free, which is very good, right? But then B gets 20 years, okay? And if they both remain silent, they just get 1 year, okay? There's not enough evidence because they are not talking into each other. Now, if we look from prisoners A's perspective, they know the game, by the way. They know what will happen in each case. So they say, okay, if I confess, and if the other one confesses, then that person gets, let me think about it, I always get it wrong.
If I don't confess and he confesses, I get 5 years. There are two possibilities, since the other person does not affect the B.
Mm-hmm.
He either confesses or not. If he doesn't confess and I do, then I get 0 years instead of 1. It's a better thing to do. And if he doesn't confess and I do, and if he confesses and also I do, then I get 5 years instead of 20. In either case, I'm better off.
Okay, exactly. So you see, if the other one confesses, then we are in this column, right? Which one is better in this column? 5 years. So confessing is better, right? If the other person remains silent, which one is better? This one is better. Do you see it? Now, by that logic, they both see that confession is a good option, no matter what the other one does, right? Nevertheless, if they both confess, it's now diagonally, if you compare diagonally, it's a worse option for them. So it's better. There is a global minimum here, but there is a logical barrier in front of it. Does it make sense? So they end up in the other local minimum.
It's worse for everyone.
Yeah. So the idea here with this paper is that, and in game theory in general, if game theory looks at prisoner's dilemma that is being played once, it just says that you should confess. That's the optimal solution no matter what the other one does, okay? But if it's an evolutionary prisoner's dilemma, meaning that you will meet that person again and you will play this prisoner's dilemma again, then it matters, because you can start trusting, right? Because the other person, let's say you play this one time and that person remains silent, it gains trust with respect to you. So the next time, even if you have defected maybe, you basically remain silent because you are hoping that that person will do the same again. Does it make sense?
Actually, prisons kind of enforce this. The snitches get stitches thing. I mean, it implicitly recognizes the importance. It implicitly recognizes that the Nash equilibrium is not the best equilibrium, and cooperation, and actually forces cooperation.
Yeah. So
with the threat of shanking.
Yeah. The point is that you put people together so that they keep interacting. That's why I think it gets there. Our analysis of the evolution of cooperation considers not just the final stability of a given strategy, but also the initial viability of a strategy in an environment dominated by non-cooperating individuals, as well as the robustness of a strategy in a variegated environment. Why use these?
That's just showing off.
Showing off, yes, their vocabulary. Composed of other individuals using a variety of... I think they wrote variety here, so they had to change this word. Less sophisticated strategy. This allows a richer understanding. So do you understand, like, they are looking also to see whether you can get to that strategy when you start with the first order strategy, everyone for themselves, no cooperation, whether you can go to the cooperation state, and whether you can remain in the cooperation state. Very good. So they basically there's a paper and you can read it. Towards the end of the paper, they make a game and they involve people in it. So the model is here. It's basically prisoner's dilemma. And they invite people to submit strategies. Okay? Like they ask, like, John, you are a computer scientist, write an algorithm that will work, etc. Okay? And after everyone submitted, they realized that the one that is almost unbeatable in this game is tit for tat. Okay, tit for tat algorithm, which is like, let's say you play a game, and you will meet again. So you have the memory, right? Out of all these complicated algorithms, the following algorithm wins. The first time we meet, it cooperates no matter what. Okay? Because it's the first impression, right? It just pushes the system towards cooperation. The second time they meet,
It was last thing the first one did.
Yes, exactly. It autocomplete. It does the last one what the first one did. Like, last time you defected me, I defect you now. Last time you cooperated, I cooperate now. So you see, two tit for tat algorithms immediately go into cooperation because they first meet and they cooperate, then they keep cooperating forever. And it's very hard to get advantage of this tit for tat algorithm because the moment you defect, the next time it will defect you. Yani gözünün yaşına bakmıyor. Okay?
I have two questions. Firstly, in prisoner's dilemma, they go to prison like for 10 or 20 years. How are they going to meet again?
In prison. No, of course, this is just... We started with prisoner's dilemma, but this is everyday life, right? You stop saying hi to people, people stop saying hi to you. Very easy peasy, right? Yeah.
Secondly, did we add much to this? Like, does everyone do tit for tat or?
No. That's the thing. Like, there are 200 algorithms. No. How many algorithms?
14 entries.
Where is 14 entries?
The 14 entries that you were paired with each other in a round.
Where are we? I mean, you left, right, up, down.
Exactly where you were.
In the just net of
The 14 entries and the totally random strategy were paired with each other, but this is okay. So they got 14 strategies, and one of them won, which was tit for tat. Very good. Your homework, should you choose to do it, is this one: Evolutionist Games and Spatial Chaos. So it's Prisoner's Dilemma being played on a grid, and you get very nice patterns, like Karabakh carpets. Very good. Very, very good. So, let's keep moving with this. So I hope I made this message that there's an algorithm. There's a first order of that algorithm, second order, third order. And let's now keep talking about multi-agent systems, what kinds of algorithms there can be. For example, have you heard of ant colony algorithm?
Yeah.
Oh, very good. So let me explain it. I did ask GPT to write an ant colony that solves traveling salesman. It did it just like that. It worked. So, how does it work? Well, let me first explain this situation. Let's say you have this nest and food. Okay, so here's what ants do. They just explore. Okay, some of them go here, some of them go there. Bless you. And once they get food, they return from the road that they came from. Okay, but there's a catch. They keep releasing these pheromones. Okay, that is volatile. Okay, so what happens is that if they go through this path, which is shorter, they arrive at a smaller time, okay, and they come back at a smaller time, so the volatility of the pheromone affects it less. I didn't mention that they also follow that pheromone. So what happens is that, let's say the first ants went and one came from here and came back in 1 second, and the pheromone is still there. The other one went from here and came back. When the third one goes, which is not the case, of course, like there are hundreds of them, complicated ways, they keep going, right? But simplistically, when the third one comes, there's a stronger smell in here, so it just follows that path, and that also improves the pheromone there. That also, yeah, you see how it works, right? So you can just run an ant over the cities on a random path to find the shortest distance with the traveling salesman. And then the other one, then you release the other one, and it just follows the pheromone trail, etc. Does it make sense? So this is ant colonies for the traveling salesman, and it works like charm. Yes?
By the way, I have a question about the tit for tat algorithm.
What algorithm?
Tit for tat.
Tit for tat, yes.
About that, normally we said that if they meet again, so if two initial signals, but can we modify the algorithm so that, even if two individual agents do not meet, again, if someone is betrayed, they say, oh, I will betray the next one.
Okay.
How would such an algorithm work?
I don't know. I see what you mean. I don't know if they have tried that, so it's sort of like karmic disillusionment from people, yes. That's a good point. As with everything, Veritasium did a very nice video on this, on its alternative ways, and he mentions something about some algorithm that was beaten. I mean, depending on the parameters that you work with, tit for tat loses. Yeah. Yes.
It just came to my mind.
Yes.
What if I take his proposition of both? So if I meet someone again, then
Yes.
for example, there's a parameter lambda there, and there's a lambda chance that I will use tit-for-tat algorithm, and there's 1 minus lambda chance that I use another algorithm, let's say. And is there a chance there might be a bifurcation or something like that happening?
Maybe. I mean, I don't know how many people enter this tournament, but you have to always keep in mind that whether your algorithm, with all its complexity, whether it will win against the simple tit-for-tat or not. I'm almost sure that many people considered these kinds of extensions, and they lost nevertheless. So maybe you can write your own algorithms and try them as a project.
Yeah, if I hadn't finished the code of my project, or this would have been a good attempt.
Yes. You have already finished.
Yeah.
Please submit it.
I'm writing the report right
Okay,
now.
very good.
The code's done.
Very good. So, what is next? Let me, for example, talk about. Let me talk about ABC algorithm. Have you heard of this one? I don't know how it works, but it has a Wikipedia page. The reason why I'm happy for it, because it's developed by a Turkish guy. Karaboğa ABC. Yeah. Look at this, 9,000 citations. Right? So this could be a good project. Basically, it's based on the behavior of the bees. Like they would explore, they come back, dance, right? Showing where the flowers are. So it's a global optimization algorithm where there are several. It's a swarm optimization. By swarm, we mean many agents going and learning something, coming back. There are different tasks for different kinds of agents, so it works. Okay? Just for your information. What other things I want to talk about today? Let me see. So, this was by Axelrod, right? Robert Axelrod. By the way, we are also traversing the complexity map. I forgot to put it here. Let me show it in the next course. So Axelrod is somewhere there. So let's look at the other paper by Axelrod, a model with local convergence and global polarization. And I will show you just a movie of it. So the idea here is that let me just describe the idea first. Let's say we can represent people by vectors. Okay. Let's say. So these entries in the vectors are basically what kind of music do you like, what kind of books do you like, what kind of education did you take, etc. Let's say there are numbers here, okay, 7, 8, 5, 4, etc. Let's say this is another person, 6, 7, 5, 4. So the idea is the two people meet, and if they have one number in common or several numbers in common, you can modify it as you want. If they have something in common, it's more probable that they will have more things in common afterwards. Like they meet, they have 8 and 8 here. Next time, this one becomes 7.
So you like the same book, so you chat about it, and then
Yeah.
they tell you about their favorite group.
Yeah, exactly. So what happens is that if you play it on a map, people who are close by get the same kinds of interests, so which corresponds to local convergence. Okay, but then it also gives you global polarization, because then there are villages of alike people who interact with the other village, but since these has become since these now have so many things in common, which was happening separately from this one, now there is a global polarization, right? All right. So let me show you the video. This one. So we are playing now this game.
What's that graph there?
That's the number of different types of people, let's say. Okay? If you play it for long enough, I always admire this guy. So equilibrium was reached, next 20 random links. So this was just some YouTube video that I liked. So now it's going to rewire the connections to simulate globalization. Like you can now WhatsApp your mother and transfer your knowledge from here, right? So what happens is that after these links are present, now at the beginning there is an increase in the types of people. So what does it suggest? Due to rewiring, the number of clusters in equilibrium decreased from, decreased, like it was 22, now it's 16, but for a brief moment it went up. Observation, after the simulation continued, diversity first increased and then decreased. So it's just the effect of globalization. At first you get many different inputs and you get different, but then everybody starts going to Burger King, right? Very good. This video. All right. Are you having fun with this kind of jumping from one place to another? Very nice.
By the way,
Yes.
I have another question about that quartet games and other similar things.
Mhm.
In there, how much did they account for, spatial clustering?
How much?
Did they account for, clustering in space?
Very good. That's what they do with this paper. That's why it's so because in the original paper it's just selecting randomly. This one is taking into account space. So that's why you start getting chaos and that kind of stuff. Some phase transitions. Very good. Okay. The next thing can be, what should I do? Let me briefly talk about networks. You saw this network, right? And then you connect. And I already briefly mentioned small world networks, which was developed by Strogatz. Do you remember? Now, there is another player in network science, and that's Albert Laszlo, this guy. Have you heard of him? I don't know why it goes here. So, let me just show you his profile. And you see, like, huge success in network science, starting from 1999, together with the internet. And in particular, this paper could be interesting to you. Let me just briefly talk about that paper. So this is emergence of scaling in random networks. So they look at all these kinds of different networks, including the World Wide Web, and they realize that there's a scaling of networks. What does it mean? So if you remember the scale-free properties of self-organized criticality, that like there would be, if you plot the size of the events versus the number of events, you get a log-log scale. Do you remember? So apparently you get that also in networks. Okay, what do we mean by this? We mean that the number of websites that has like 10 to the 3 links are this much probable. The number of networks, like, let me give you an example. Number of pages that have 100,000 links pointing to it is maybe 1. Then 10,000 is 10, 1,000 is 100, etc. So it's in exactly. Is it? Do you think it's the largest one with the links?
Do we count social media sites as a single site?
I don't know. Now it's messed up. Like this is in 1999. So, but they figure out the fundamental process that would lead to this. Okay, and they realize that you need 2 things. Network expand continuously by addition of new vertices. So this is a quite unphysicist idea, because physicists, when you give physicists a system to investigate, they usually want the system to have already n particles. Okay, like give me, yes, if possible, yes. But this is saying that if we want to get this property, we need to start from scratch, from a few websites. And then the second part is new vertices attached preferentially to sites that are already well connected. So what does it mean? If you have 10 pages and one of those pages has 100, no, it can't, right? If all the 9 pages are pointing to it, then the 11th will point to it with high probability, preferential attachment. If you are famous, you are probably going to get even more famous, etc. Yeah. So this is a nice explanation, and you can apply this to everything. Like he started applying this to, look, network biology, human mobility, metabolic networks, World Wide Web, protein networks. This is from his earlier studies. He actually made a group meeting where he said, I'm stopping the material science stuff and moving to network science. It was a good choice, apparently, for him. Okay, I think we can stop here. We can continue with other papers like this. Okay, take good care.